No one screamed when it happened. That was the strange part. 400 students from dozens of alien species sat frozen as the sound echoed across the training hall. It was not loud. Not dramatic. Just the dull, solid crack of impact, flesh against bone. A sound that did not belong in a place built on rules, order, and civilized behavior. Calrithian lowered his arm slowly, confusion spreading across his scaled face. The human girl in front of him did not fall. She did not stagger. She did not even step back. She only turned her head slightly, as if annoyed by a buzzing insect. And in that moment, the entire academy felt something shift. The Dominion Interstellar Academy was not designed for mistakes. It orbited a blue giant star, far from any single species territory, neutral ground for the brightest young minds of the galaxy. Future admirals, scientists, diplomats, rulers. Every corridor was monitored. Every rule was precise. Violence between students was rare and quickly punished. But humans were new, and no one truly understood them yet. Lena Ward stood still, boots planted on the polished floor, eyes locked on Cale. She was shorter than most students in the hall. No armor plates. No claws. No visible weapons. Just a slim human frame wrapped in standard academy training gear. Cale was twice her mass. Born on a high-gravity world, his species was known for physical dominance. Thick scales reinforced his muscles. His bones were engineered by evolution to survive crushing pressure. Among non-combat species, he was feared. Among students, respected. Among humans, misunderstood. "You should have moved," Cale said, his voice low, trying to reclaim control. "This is a combat priority zone." Lena blinked once. "You hit me," she said calmly. Around them, students leaned back, some already activating recording devices. A few instructors at the edge of the hall were turning too slowly, not yet grasping what had just happened. Cale snorted. "Barely." His hand was beginning to ache. That made no sense. He had struck her across the side of the head, controlled, restrained, but firm enough to send a warning. Any other species would have dropped. Some would have needed medical attention. Lena raised a hand and touched her temple. She looked at her fingers, then back at him. "That was rude," she said. Then she stepped forward. The sound that followed was different. Shorter. Sharper. Cale gasped as pain exploded up his arm. His wrist bent at an angle it was never meant to bend. His knees locked, instincts screaming danger. He stumbled back, shock overriding pride. Lena did not chase him. She stopped after one step. "I asked you to wait your turn," she said. "You decided to make it physical." Silence swallowed the hall. Cale stared at his arm, scales already darkening around the swelling joint. He looked back at her, eyes wide now, fear replacing arrogance. You're human," he said. "Yes." "That's impossible." Lena tilted her head slightly. "Is it?" By the time security arrived, the damage was done. Medical drones lifted Cale onto a grave stretcher, his arm immobilized, his mind shattered. The recording had already spread across internal networks. 100 angles. 100 replays. One human. One strike. One high-gravity species humbled in seconds. Commander Iris watched the footage 3 times before speaking. She was old by galactic standards, her exoskeletal plating dulled by decades of service. As head of student security, she had seen riots, biological accidents, even assassination attempts. This was different. "Pull the human's file," she said. Her assistant hesitated. "Which one?" "All of them." The data flooded the screen. Earth. Class 12 Deathworld. Volcanic instability. Extreme weather. High seismic activity. Aggressive megafauna. Microbial density off the charts. Atmospheric composition hostile to most life. Predators evolved to hunt endurance runners. Commander Iris felt something cold settle in her core. Humans were not fragile. They were conditioned. By the time Lena Ward was escorted to medical, She was more annoyed than frightened. "I didn't even hit him that hard," she said as the scanner passed over her skull. The medic paused, scanned again, then slowly turned the display toward the observation window. Her cranial density readings glowed far beyond Academy safety standards. "That's abnormal," the medic said quietly. "For you," Lena replied. Elsewhere in the Academy, conversations changed tone. Students who had dismissed humans as political guests now whispered warnings. Training schedules were quietly adjusted. Instructors began rereading old files they should have studied months ago. And far above the Academy, diplomatic channels lit up with messages marked urgent. Because one simple truth was spreading faster than fear. You do not hit a species forged by a Deathworld. And this was only the beginning. No one slept normally that night. Not because of pain, or nightmares, or exams. Because the Academy's internal network kept replaying the same moment in endless loops. Calrithian's strike, Lena Ward's calm face, and the instant his own arm betrayed him. The video was everywhere. In dorm chats. In lecture feeds. Even in the cafeteria menu display for a few humiliating minutes before staff shut it down. By morning rotation, the story had already grown teeth. Some called Lena a monster. Some called her a legend. Most were simply afraid of making the wrong kind of eye contact with her. Lena walked through the central corridor like nothing had changed. She kept her shoulders relaxed, her gaze forward, and her hands in her pockets the way she always did when she was trying to look casual. But she wasn't blind. She saw the way groups split as she approached. She heard the sudden silence when she passed. She noticed how even the loud species, ones who normally filled the air with clicking jokes and confident chatter, lowered their voices around her like the hallway had turned sacred. None of it made her feel powerful. It made her feel lonely. In the medical wing, Cale lay under soft restraint fields, his fractured arm sealed inside a regeneration cast. His species healed well, too well, sometimes, but the swelling in his forearm was still ugly. Pain flickered through him in sharp waves, and every wave carried the same thought. How? Dr. Selm, the Academy's chief medic, hovered beside the display panel. Her eyes were bright with irritation and disbelief. "This is not a normal injury," she said, voice clipped. "Your bone structure is reinforced. You should not be able to do this to yourself." Cale swallowed, throat dry. "I hit her." Dr. Selm's jaw tightened. "You hit a human." Cale turned his head away. She barely reacted. "Because she didn't have to," Dr. Selm said. "Your strike met a structure that refused to yield." She brought up a comparative skeletal chart. Cale's arm. Lena's skull. 2 glowing outlines. One cracked. One untouched. "You understand how most species survive?" Dr. Selm asked quietly. "They avoid damage. They don't invite it." Cale's eyes shifted back to the human outline. "And humans," he whispered. Dr. Selm hesitated like she hated the answer. "They endure damage," she said. "And keep moving." Cale felt a tremor in his chest that had nothing to do with pain. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what a Deathworld meant. Not a label. Not a political term. A shaping force. He had attacked the product of a planet that punished weakness every day. A planet that forced its people to become stubborn, adaptable, and terrifyingly hard to stop. A knock sounded at the doorframe. Commander Iris stepped into the room, armor polished, face unreadable. 2 security officers followed behind her. Cale's heart thudded. "Student Rithian," Commander Iris said. "You are under formal conduct review." Cale tried to sit up. The pain made him hiss. "I didn't mean." "You meant to assert dominance through physical force," Iris said flatly. "That is what you did." Cale's mouth opened, but no words came out. Iris's gaze stayed cold. "Do you understand the diplomatic risk you created?" He looked confused. "Diplomatic?" Iris tapped her wrist display. A stream of messages appeared, official seals, coded warnings, names of factions Cale only knew from history lessons. "The Terran Union has placed 3 ambassadors on standby," she said. They requested a formal explanation within one standard day. Kale's stomach dropped. His family was powerful. But the Academy served the Galactic Council itself. And humans, new as they were, had arrived with something stronger than reputation. They had arrived with leverage. I didn't think, Kale whispered. That is the problem, Iris replied. Her eyes shifted slightly, as if she were now speaking to the whole Academy through him. No one thought. In Headmaster Vila's office, the air felt heavy. The headmaster was a Threxian, thin, elegant, and terrifyingly calm. His kind could read micro-expressions with unsettling accuracy, and right now his face remained smooth even as his hands trembled. Across from him sat Ambassador Mara Klein of Earth. She looked normal. Human. No armor. No dramatic uniform. Just a dark jacket with a small silver emblem on the chest. But the room treated her like a loaded weapon. Her eyes were steady. Her voice was gentle. And that gentleness did not feel weak. Headmaster Vila cleared his throat. We regret the incident. Ambassador Klein nodded. Regret is a start. Vila forced a polite smile. The student responsible will be disciplined. Our academy is committed to peace and safety. Klein leaned back slightly. Good. Because the next time someone decides humans are safe to hurt, it won't end in one broken arm. Vila's smile collapsed. Klein continued calmly, like she was explaining weather patterns. Your orientation packet listed Earth as a Class 7, she said. That was false. Vila looked toward his assistant. The assistant's face drained of color. Someone altered it, Vila said quietly. Klein's expression did not change. That someone put my citizen in danger. And they put your academy in danger too. Vila swallowed. What do you want, Ambassador? Klein tapped the table once, slow and measured. New rules, she said. New warnings. And training protocols that reflect reality. Vila blinked. Reality. Klein's eyes sharpened. Humans are not fragile, she said. We look soft because we don't have claws. We look small because we don't have plates. But we are built to survive pain, pressure, hunger, fear, cold, heat, and desperation. That's what our world taught us. Her voice lowered slightly. And if your students don't learn that lesson through policy, they'll learn it through consequences. Lena found out about the meeting by accident. She was sitting alone in the cafeteria, eating something that the Academy insisted was human-compatible protein. It tasted like regret. Across the room, 2 alien students stared at her as if she might bite their heads off. When she looked up, they snapped their eyes away so fast it was almost funny. Lena sighed and went back to her food. Then someone sat down across from her. Lena looked up, and froze. It was Kale's friend group leader, a tall student named Jexa Vaughn, who had been laughing the loudest yesterday before everything went wrong. Today, Jexa's face looked different. Not confident. Careful. Jexa placed a small tray on the table between them. On it sat a slice of chocolate cake. Lena blinked. Is that for me? Jexa nodded slowly. Yes. Lena stared at the cake like it might explode. Why? Jexa swallowed. Because we were wrong. Lena didn't move. About what? Jexa's voice came out quiet. About thinking you were harmless, she admitted. And about thinking harm was acceptable. Lena's fingers tightened around her utensil. I don't want people to be scared of me, Lena said, softer now. Jexa's eyes flickered. That's not your choice anymore. It already happened. Lena stared at the cake. Then she pushed it back toward Jexa. Keep it, she said. I didn't earn this. Jexa looked confused. But you. I didn't win, Lena said. I got hit. That's not a victory. Her voice sharpened, not angry, honest. If the Academy learns anything, I want it to be this. Don't hurt people because you think they can't hurt you back. That's not strength. That's just being a bully. Jexa sat very still. Then, slowly, she nodded. Across the cafeteria, more students were watching now, listening without pretending they weren't. And Lena could feel it, something changing again. Not fear this time. Attention. Respect. And behind it, something else. Curiosity. Because the biggest question in the academy had shifted overnight. It was no longer, can humans survive here? It was, what happens when humans decide they're done being quiet? The first rule change arrived quietly. No announcement. No ceremony. Just a thin update pushed to every student's data slate sometime during the artificial night cycle. Most students skimmed it half asleep, assumed it was another procedural adjustment, and went back to whatever passed for dreaming on their species' home world. By morning, no one was laughing. The update was short. Precise. Cold. Physical contact with human students is prohibited unless explicitly authorized under supervised training conditions. Violations will be treated as interspecies assault with diplomatic consequences. Diplomatic consequences. Those two words landed harder than any punishment the Academy had ever issued. Lena read the notice while standing in line for morning nutrition. She read it twice, then a third time, just to make sure she hadn't misunderstood. When she looked up, she realized she was the only human in the room, and that everyone else had subtly repositioned themselves to give her space. Too much space. She exhaled slowly and stepped forward, closing the gap herself. The line did not collapse. No one flinched. But every movement around her was careful now, measured like she was carrying something volatile. Lena hated it. Instructors hated it too, though for different reasons. Professor Halrex, who taught applied kinetics, stood in front of his class staring at the revised syllabus with visible discomfort. His species was amphibious, his eyes large and reflective, his skin pulsing faintly with stress patterns. This course, he said slowly, has always relied on controlled physical demonstrations. No one spoke. Halrex's gaze drifted to Lena, sitting in the second row, posture straight, expression neutral. The new restrictions, he continued, require adaptation. That word again. Adaptation. Humans were very familiar with it. Halrex cleared his throat. For the remainder of the term, all interspecies kinetic demonstrations will be simulated. Direct force application involving human students will require full faculty oversight. A murmur rippled through the room. Simulations were safe. Simulations were boring. Simulations did not prove dominance. Lena raised her hand. Halrex hesitated, then nodded. Yes, student ward. If this is about safety, Lena said evenly, shouldn't simulations include accurate parameters? Halrex frowned. Explain. Lena tapped her slate, pulling up the same public data everyone now had access to. Bone density charts. Muscle fiber resilience. Neural pain response thresholds. You're still using average council species baselines, she said. That's not accurate for humans. The room went still. Halrex's throat sacs fluttered. Those baselines are standard. They're wrong, Lena replied. Not aggressively. Just factually. If you simulate force against us using those numbers, you're not learning anything real. You're just protecting your assumptions. That stung. Halrex looked around, then back at her. And what would you suggest? Lena paused. She could feel eyes on her now, not fearful, not hostile. Evaluating. Update the models, she said. Or don't pretend you're training for reality. Silence. Then Halrex nodded slowly. I will consider this. By midday, the Academy's servers were overheating. Requests poured in from faculty departments, security analysts, even off-world research institutions. Everyone wanted the same thing. Human data. Not summaries. Not political briefs. Real numbers. Endurance thresholds. Impact tolerance. Recovery rates. Pain response curves. What they found unsettled them. Humans did not rank highest in raw strength. They were not the fastest. They did not possess the deadliest natural weapons. What they had instead was something harder to quantify. Refusal. A refusal to stop. A refusal to collapse when logic said they should. A refusal to accept that pain was the end of the equation. Commander Iris reviewed the reports late into her rest cycle, her sensory nodes burning. She had overseen dangerous species before. Predators. Warriors. Even controlled berserkers. Humans were none of those. And all of them. A notification pulsed on her display. Training authorization request. Human exposure trial. She frowned. The request originated from the Advanced Survival Division, one of the Academy's most prestigious and brutal programs. It specialized in extreme scenario testing, vacuum breaches, gravity spikes, structural failures. Normally, humans would never be considered. Now, someone wanted to test them. Iris stared at the request for a long moment. Then she approved it. Lena found out an hour later. She was in the Arboretum module, sitting beneath a carefully engineered tree that mimicked Earth gravity stress on its branches. It was one of the few places that still felt normal. Commander Iris approached without preamble. "Student Ward," she said. "You have been selected for a supervised survival assessment." Lena looked up. "Assessment?" "Non-combat," Iris clarified. "Environmental stress. Voluntary." Lena's jaw tightened. Voluntary usually means expected. Iris did not deny it. "Correct." "What happens if I say no?" Iris met her eyes. "Nothing. Officially." Lena studied her for a moment. "And unofficially?" "The narrative remains incomplete," Iris said carefully. Lena leaned back against the tree. She thought about the looks. The silence. The careful distance. She stood. When? The chamber was never meant for comfort. It was a sealed environment designed to test structural integrity under cascading failures. Gravity fluctuators. Atmospheric instability. Temperature swings. Students watched from behind reinforced transparent steel, their breath fogging the surface as the countdown began. Lena stood alone in the center. No armor. No weapons. Just standard academy gear. Test parameters initiated, a calm voice announced. The gravity jumped first. Not dramatically. Just enough to pull at joints, to remind the body it was being watched. Lena adjusted her stance. Then the temperature dropped. Her breath fogged. Skin prickled. Then rose. Heat pressed in, thick and suffocating. Lena wiped sweat from her brow. Inside the control room, readings spiked. "This is exceeding recommended exposure," an analyst said. Commander Iris folded her arms. She hasn't asked to stop. The pressure increased. The air thinned. Most species would have collapsed by now. Lena's breathing quickened, but it did not break. Her muscles trembled. Her vision narrowed. Still, she stayed upright. "Why is she still standing?" someone whispered. Iris answered quietly. "Because on her world," she said, "the environment doesn't ask permission." Minutes passed. Finally, the system shut down. Gravity normalized. Air stabilized. Temperature eased. Lena dropped to one knee, not in defeat, but recovery. The chamber doors opened. Medics rushed in. Lena waved them off and stood under her own power. Across the observation deck, no one spoke. Not because they were afraid. Because something undeniable had settled into place. Humans were not dangerous because they attacked. They were dangerous because when everything went wrong, they kept going. And the Academy was only beginning to understand what that truly meant. By the next cycle, fear had finished transforming. It had become strategy. The Academy Council convened in a chamber that had not been used in decades. Circular, shielded, and sealed against both sound and signal, it was meant for discussions that could not be allowed to leak. Representatives from 7 major species sat in elevated seats, while instructors, security heads, and observers filled the lower ring. At the center of every display hovered the same image. Lena Ward. Standing in the survival chamber. Breathing hard. Still standing. She exceeded safe exposure limits by 40%, one counselor said, voice tight. That chamber was calibrated to incapacitate most species. And yet, another replied, she did not fail. Commander Iris stood with her hands clasped behind her back. She did not succeed either, she said calmly. She endured. That distinction may not matter, the counselor snapped. If humans can tolerate conditions like that, they change our risk calculations. A murmur of agreement spread. The Academy had always prepared students for leadership in a dangerous galaxy. Crisis management. Disaster response. First contact failures. But every scenario had limits, lines no one crossed because survival probability dropped too low. Humans had just pushed those lines back. What exactly are you proposing? Headmaster Vila asked. The room quieted. A projection shifted. New data appeared. Simulated station failures. Hull breaches. Reactor instability. Gravity collapse. These scenarios, said Counselor Threx, have always been theoretical. No species can reliably operate in them without catastrophic loss. And now? Vila asked. Threx hesitated. And now, he said slowly, we have a species that might. Silence fell, heavy and uncomfortable. Commander Iris's jaw tightened. Humans are students, she said. Not tools. No one is suggesting exploitation, Threx replied quickly. We are discussing capability. Iris looked around the room. Capability has consequences. Vila raised a hand. Enough. Any expansion of human involvement must be voluntary, transparent, and limited. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably, because they all knew what would happen next. Lena was called to the administration wing that evening. She already knew why. The room was smaller than she expected. No council chamber. No crowd. Just Headmaster Vila, Commander Iris, and two observers whose species she did not recognize. Vila gestured for her to sit. Student Ward, thank you for coming. Lena remained standing. You want me to do something dangerous? It was not a question. Vila paused. We want to ask. Lena folded her arms. Ask what? Iris stepped forward. A simulated emergency response. Multi-species team. You would be the anchor. The anchor, Lena repeated. In environments where others may fail, Iris said carefully. Lena let out a slow breath. You want me to be the one who keeps going when everyone else can't? No one corrected her. Lena nodded once. And if I get hurt? Vila answered softly. Then the test ends immediately. And if someone else gets hurt because I'm there? Lena asked. Another pause. That is, less likely, Vila said. Lena looked at Iris. That's not an answer. Iris met her gaze. It's the truth. Your presence reduces overall failure risk. Lena felt something twist in her chest. So I make it safer for everyone else. Yes. But not for me. No one spoke. Lena closed her eyes for a moment. Images flashed through her mind. Earth storms. Emergency drills. Stories of people running toward danger because someone had to. She opened her eyes. I'll do it, she said. But on one condition. Vila leaned forward. Name it. You don't pretend this is normal, Lena said. You don't tell people this is easy. And you don't let anyone forget that humans break too. Iris nodded slowly. Agreed. The simulation was scheduled for the following day. The chamber was larger than before. Modular. Designed to mimic a station section after catastrophic failure. Gravity distortions. Atmospheric leaks. Flickering power. 5 students entered. 2 engineers. 1 medic. 1 security specialist. And Lena. They exchanged nervous glances. No one joked. No one boasted. The alarm sounded. The world lurched. Gravity slammed sideways, then down. 1 engineer cried out as he hit the wall. Lena caught him by the harness and shoved him behind a support beam. "Stay low," she shouted. "Breathe slow." Air screamed through a ruptured conduit. Temperature plummeted. The medic slipped. Lena grabbed her arm, muscles screaming as she hauled her upright. "Go," Lena said. "I've got you." Minutes stretched. Systems failed. The security specialist froze when the lights went out completely. "I can't see," he said, panic rising. Lena took his hand. "You don't need to. Follow my voice." Her own lungs burned now. Cold cut through her clothes. Her hands shook. She kept moving. When the final alarm sounded, the chamber doors sealed. Simulation complete. Silence followed. Then the lights came back. Every student was alive. Every student was shaking. Lena dropped to the floor and sat there, head back against the wall, chest heaving. Her vision blurred at the edges. Medics rushed in. This time, she did not wave them away. Across the observation deck, instructors stared in stunned silence. One of the engineers broke down crying. "We would have died," he said. "Without her." Commander Iris felt something heavy settle in her chest. This was the cost. Not fear. Not danger. Responsibility. By that evening, new directives spread through the academy. Humans were no longer just protected. They were classified. Special handling protocols. Ethical review requirements. Mandatory consent reaffirmation before high-risk scenarios. And one final line, buried deep in the document. Humans are not to be relied upon as fail-safes. Their participation does not eliminate risk. It merely shifts it. Lena read that line twice. Then she closed the file. She sat alone again, staring out at the stars beyond the station's shields. She had proven something. But she wasn't sure it was what she wanted. Because now the Academy knew the truth. Humans would step forward. Humans would endure. And someone, someday, would ask them to do it again. Even when it hurt. Even when it wasn't fair. And that realization scared her more than any punch ever could. The official warning went out at dawn cycle. Not a rumor. Not a student post. Not a quiet policy buried in internal files. A broadcast. Every screen across the Dominion Interstellar Academy lit up at the same time. Classrooms paused. Laboratories froze mid-experiment. Even the Arboretum's artificial sunrise dimmed as the message took priority. Headmaster Vila appeared on screen. He did not smile. "Effective immediately," he said, voice steady but strained. "The Academy's Interspecies Conduct Handbook has been formally revised." A data stream unfolded beside him, page after page of updates, amendments, and new classifications. Students leaned forward. In response to recent events, Vila continued, "Human students are now designated Category Omega Resilient." A ripple moved through the station. That designation had not been used in over a century. It denotes a species whose members demonstrate exceptional endurance under extreme environmental, physical, and psychological stress, Vila said. This designation does not imply aggression. It implies survival capacity. Behind the scenes, diplomatic observers from 12 systems watched silently. Any act of physical force against a Category Omega resilient species, Vila went on, will now be treated as a high-risk escalation incident, regardless of intent or outcome. Kale Rithian watched the broadcast from the medical wing, his arm finally healed but his pride permanently scarred. He did not look angry. He looked small. Vila finished with a line that would echo across the Academy for years. Underestimating a Deathworld species is no longer considered ignorance. It is considered negligence. The feed cut. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the Academy exhaled. Lena did not watch the broadcast live. She was in the training bay, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall, wrists wrapped in cooling bands, breathing slowly through lingering pain. The simulation had taken more out of her than she had admitted. Commander Iris entered quietly. "They made it official," Iris said. Lena nodded without looking up. "I figured they would." Iris studied her. "You changed this place. Lena finally looked up. I didn't mean to. That doesn't matter, Iris said gently. History rarely asks permission. Lena flexed her fingers. So what happens now? Iris paused. Now the Academy adjusts. New rules. New limits. New respect. And humans? Lena asked. Iris met her gaze. Humans are no longer invisible. That answer sat heavy between them. The consequences rippled outward fast. Other academies requested briefings. Military institutions demanded human physiology data. Research councils proposed joint studies, carefully worded, ethically reviewed, heavily restricted. The Terran Union declined most of them. Politely. Firmly. Because Earth had learned something the hard way long before it reached the stars. Being useful can become a cage. Back at the Dominion Academy, something quieter was happening. Students stopped avoiding Lena. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But slowly. Someone sat next to her in lecture. Someone asked a question instead of whispering. Someone laughed when she made a dry joke about gravity training. Respect replaced fear. Not because she was dangerous, but because she had been honest. Kale requested a meeting 3 days later. The room was neutral ground, no observers, no recording fields. Kale stood stiffly when Lena entered. I owe you an apology, he said immediately. Lena studied him. You already got punished. That wasn't the point, Kale replied. His voice was quieter than she remembered. I believed strength meant never being challenged. Your species proved me wrong. Lena shrugged. Earth does that to people. Kale hesitated. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. Lena considered him, then nodded. Fair. He exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. Thank you, for surviving me. Lena gave a small, tired smile. Try not to test that again. He almost smiled back. By the end of the term, the Academy was not the same place. Combat training emphasized restraint. Environmental courses used Earth as a primary case study. And every incoming student, every single one, received an unfiltered briefing. Not about humans being monsters, but about humans being forged. The final page of the new handbook carried a simple warning, translated into every known language. Do not mistake endurance for passivity. Do not mistake calm for weakness. And never assume pain will stop a human. On her last night before break rotation, Lena stood by the observation window again. Stars drifted past in slow silence. Earth was far away, but she could still feel it in her bones, the pull of gravity, the memory of storms, the quiet lesson her world had taught her since birth. You survive. You adapt. You keep going. Behind her, voices filled the Academy, different species, different worlds, all learning the same truth. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were not invincible. But they were shaped by a planet that never cared if they lived or died. And that made all the difference. Because in a galaxy full of advanced technology and fragile assumptions, one lesson would now be remembered forever. Punching a Deathworld species is expensive. But underestimating them? That cost everything.